Hi there, this is Mark from Freeze Pro Shop. We're just here today to show you a little instructional video of how to remove the wax from your board and finally to replace it with the new Van der Waal deck grips. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Van der Waal surf grip and what the advantages of it are over the traditional wax. First of all, it lasts longer, so you put it on your board once and that's it on for good. Depending on the conditions, what kind of surfer you are, it should outlast your board. So once it's on there, you don't have to worry about it again. You don't have to worry about taking a block of wax to the beach. You don't have to worry about if you've got the right temperature of wax. If you go on a trip somewhere, taking all the old wax off just to put a harder one on when you get somewhere warmer. None of those worries, none of those concerns. Another big advantage is it's more eco-friendly. So although it looks like sort of obviously a plastic product, it is made out of long-lasting materials, which then means that there's a lot less waste. Most waxes these days are made from petroleum, which obviously has a very bad environmental aspect to it. Other things, going to make your board look great. So if you've paid a bit of money for a nice spray on your board, you got a really nice design you're proud of, and then you go and stick some dirty wax over the top, it's not going to look so good. This stuff is transparent. As soon as you put it on, you barely notice it's there. Looks great. It doesn't stain, so if you leave your board out in the sun and the wax is going to melt a little bit, as I'm sure we all have, it's not going to drip onto other things. If you look at just the leash here, you can see there's the wax all over it. That's just extra mess, and that gets all over anything that it touches and sticks to it. It doesn't gather any sand or hair or any other dirt like that. Super clean, super fresh. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different materials and products you're going to need to strip the wax from your board and to fit the Van der Waal surf grip. First of all, you're going to start off just by removing any fins that are on the board, removing the leash. So obviously for that you're going to need just a fin key, depending on what system you have on your board. Next thing, we're going to look at getting a wax comb. Obviously, ideally you use a Freeze Pro Shop recycled wax comb for that job. Then once most of the wax is off, you can start to use either one of these products here, like the Sex Wax Pickle Wax Remover, or I've also got one from Fix Doctor. The idea with those is they're sort of single use. You use it once and it gets thrown away. It's not biodegradable materials in these, so they're a little bit better for the environment as well, which is great. But I still think the best solution, just getting a bottle of wax remover. This is Sex Wax X Wax wax remover, and an old t-shirt or a rag. If it was an old one that's going to get chucked out anyway, absolutely ideal. That's perfect. One last little thing that might help you, just a tape measure when it comes to measuring where the best spot to put your center Van der Waal grip. So the first thing we're going to do, take a tape measure and just find a reference point to where you want the center Van der Waal surf grip to go. So I'm just looking from the tail pad up, you can see where my front foot normally sits on the board. So roughly in the middle of that there. Take the tape measure back and I measure that 25 inches along the center line. So the idea of that is I've now got a reference point, so I'm going to clean all the wax off, I've got a nice clean board, I know where to start putting the first grip. So once I've measured my reference point, I know where my front foot normally sits, it's time to start cleaning the board up, get all this old wax off. So take the wax comb, just start to get into it, taking little bits off at a time, nice and easy. These wax combs are quite soft and flexible, so you don't have too many worries about scraping the board, but some other ones you can buy do tend to be quite hard plastic, so you want to just be a little bit careful, especially if you've got sand and any other kind of dirt on your board. But you can already see it comes up nice and easily. If you can try and do it somewhere warm, not always an option, especially when you live up in Scotland. If you try and find somewhere warm, the wax should be a little bit softer and it should come off that little bit easier. Okay, so that's all the wax off now. It's time to reach for the wax remover. So wax comb, we're finished with that. Get the wax remover out. Get a t-shirt, just an old rag. Try and ideally rip it off into a few different parts, so you've always got a clean part to get to, because it is going to get quite messy. Okay, so we've got our little rag. We now start to pour a little bit of this wax remover on. Okay, and hopefully nice and easy. Just start to clean off all that wax. Okay, so once you got most of the wax off, it's all looking nice and clean. There's still going to be a bit of residue on there, which is going to make it quite difficult for anything to stick to. So that's why you want to have two rags. You have one for the first shot. Get rid of that, you get a nice clean rag, and this is going to be kind of the final finishing touch. So the Van der Waal Surf Grip, it comes in a few different pack sizes. You can either buy 17, 21, 25 or 30. I went for 25 as a bit of a guess, hoping that's going to be right. If it's not, then obviously we can sort of add or remove as needed. We do have a guide on our website as well, just to help you calculate. Okay, so at the start, I remember to measure to find exactly where my front foot is going to lie. So take the tape measure back out again, 25 inches, and that point there, that's where we'd like our first grip to go. So we stick that on there, lay it down on top, and that's going to be the starting point. Peel off the back. Try not to touch it with your fingers if you've got any wax on them, etc. And lay it down using a stringer as a guide. So you should be able to get them sitting nice and straight. This is the first one to go on, and the most important because this is where the rest of them reference from to make sure they're straight as well. Okay, so on the packet you have this little spacer tool here, which helps in getting the space just right in between each one so they're all completely uniform. Once you have your first pad on, you take the spacer, lay it down and match it up, and you can see there that's going to be your template for having a rest, so we can work back from there. And take the next one. Oh, try not to fumble too much. Okay, and using the spacer, on it goes. And if you just make sure you don't push it down to begin with, you can just readjust slightly, and that's it. So that's now 17 of the pads on this board. To give you an idea, this is a 5'10", it's 20 inches wide. It's a reasonably wide board, but quite stubby. So this is what 17 would look like. I started off with a 25 pack. I think I've still got room to stick a couple more on. This is now where I can decide if I want to. I can cut some of these pads in half, just to fill in little gaps in the side and make it a bit of a cleaner shape. Maybe one up here as well. Can just start to decide where I think I'll need them a bit more. So in summary, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I was getting a little bit stressed about placing them all wrong, getting all the gaps wrong, but actually it's not a perfect job, I'm not going to lie. There's little bits where it maybe slightly squint, some bits stick out a bit further than others, but generally speaking I think that looks a lot better than the wax alternative, and I'm looking forward to not having to bother about any sticky wax getting anywhere. Okay, so that's about it. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and all the products you saw today can be found at freezeproshop.com.